write it down. D equals square root, parentheses x minus x parentheses squared plus parentheses y minus y parentheses squared. So everybody needs to write down that formula. D equals square root x minus x parentheses squared plus y minus y parentheses squared. All right. Can anybody else think of the other word that means distance? Good. Did you look at your handy sheet? That's okay if you did. All right. So distance and length are the two words that should be written on your paper. The words distance and the word length should be written somewhere on your paper. So for number 1, what is the distance between the points 4, -6, and -1, 5? So just like with the midpoint formula, you need to be careful about what's the x's. What are the x's? In this particular problem, anybody, what are your x values? Very good. 4 and -1. So I got to take the first number from this one and the first number from that one. So in my parentheses, so you're going to write this down for number 1. You need to put 4, because that's your x. And then what comes next in the formula? Minus x minus. Then what's the next number? -1, parentheses. What comes after the parentheses? A squared. And then what goes after the parentheses? A plus, parentheses. And then in the next one, it's y minus y. What's the first number that's going in for y? -6. And then it's a minus 5, parentheses. What goes after the parentheses? Squared. All right. In your calculator, I'm going to show you exactly how to type it in. You have to do it the exact way that I want it. Okay, in your calculator, we're not going to do the square root yet. We're not going to do the square root. We're going to start with the parentheses, and you have to do this for a reason. So you're going to start with the parentheses, and then you're going to do 4. So everybody should be doing this with me. Okay, look, I'm going to do it slow, and I need you to look up here. The parentheses is right here above the 8. That's what you type in first. And then a 4. And then the minus is over here on the side, minus. And then for negative, you do have to use a different button in the calculator. Down here is the negative for the calculator, -1. Then you put in the other parentheses is above the 9, down here. Then the square is right here. This x squared button, that's what puts you a square. The plus is over here on the side. Parentheses is above the 8. All right, for -6, the calculator is weird. It makes you put the negative down here, -6, and then -5. The minus is over here, parentheses, squared. And then you hit enter. All right, you should be getting 146. If you're not, raise your hand so I can help you fix the calculator. 146? All right, so did we type the square root in the calculator? So what you need to do is drop down the square root. So on your paper, write that down. You need to write the square root because we haven't put that in the calculator yet. So write the square root underneath it. And then we just typed all that in. And what did the calculator tell us all that was? 146. Okay? Now, what answer does that match? D. Now, I also want to show you in your calculator Sometimes you won't find that as an answer choice, and you have to actually find the decimal. So everybody do this with me. Hit the second button. Everybody do this with me. Hit the second. Then you're going to hit this x squared button, but the square root is above it. Right here. Hit second and then the x squared button. And then you're going to type in 146 and hit enter. And it gives you what? 12. But it's a decimal. So be careful. 12 is not the answer. 12.0830, all that is the answer. So which one of these is the best answer? D. Okay, square root of 146. Okay. All right, are there questions on number 1? All right. The word distance. So whenever I see this word distance, I'm doing D equals square root x minus x parentheses squared plus parentheses y minus y parentheses squared. So that's the distance formula. That's the name of it. The distance formula. All right. Destiny, what are my two x values? What are my two x values? What are the two numbers that are x's? X's are -1 and 4 are your x's. So I'm going to do square root, parentheses. I'm going to start here. Guys, it doesn't matter what order you do. I'm going to do -1 minus 4. If you did 4 minus -1, you're going to get the same answer. Caitlin, what are my two y values? So I need to do 2 minus 3, parentheses, squared. Okay. All right, raise your hand if you have a question. In your calculator, you are going to start with the parentheses. Start with the parentheses. So don't put in that square root yet. Start with the parentheses. Negative down here, -1 minus 4, parentheses, and then you're going to use over here to put your square in, plus parentheses 2 minus 3, parentheses, squared. Okay. All right, don't forget to drop down your square root. We haven't done anything with it, so it needs to be dropped down. Hey, Gavin, that's your last warning. You've got to raise your hand. When you type all this in, you get 26. Square root of 26. That is one answer. Sometimes that will be an answer, a multiple choice. But if you look on this particular problem, is square root of 26 an answer choice on this one? No. So on this one, you have to type this in the calculator. Sometimes that's an answer choice. Sometimes you have to do one more step. All right, Gavin, let me type it in. So I'm going to do second. Everybody do this with me if you haven't already. Second, square root, and then I'll type in 26. All right, Gavin, what you got? 5.099. Okay, so 5.099, and he's right. It rounds up to 5.10, which is B. All right, raise your hand if you have a question. All right, number 3. Sarah, read this one. Good. So this one, how far apart are the two boys? What formula does it want us to use? Distance. Good. This one, you're going to have to do a little sketch because it doesn't give you the point. So you're going to have to do a little sketch. Where would it make sense from Brock and Sean to start with on my sketch? Good. They'll start in the middle. Okay, what does it say Brock does? Which way's east? So remember, we're on the East Coast. If this was America, we're on the East Coast, and this is the West Coast, and South, and North. All right, so he walks east 4 blocks. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so this is Brock. He walks east for 4 and north for 5. Zach, what does Sean do? All right, and then what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, and that is Sean. Okay. Stephanie, what coordinates could I put for Brock? Yes, 4, 5. Good. Rebecca, what could I put for Sean? Positive 3 or negative 3? And? Very good. Good job, Rebecca. Okay. Yes, Gavin? No, not yet. All right, now we're going to do the formula. So I'm going to put a big square root symbol, parentheses. Gavin, what are the first two numbers that would go in the parentheses? All right, so be careful. The formula is x minus x parentheses squared plus parentheses y minus y parentheses squared. So in here are my two. Okay, so what would go in? So I do 4 minus negative 3 squared. Drop down my plus. Allison, what's going in the next parenthesis? Very good. Good job, Allison. Okay. All right, Natasha, when I type that in the calculator, what do I start with? Very good. I start at the parentheses and type it in my calculator. All right, I'm going to give everybody a minute to do that. You type in just the parentheses part. 149. All right, so I have to drop down my square root. On your paper, if you don't have this square root around the 149, you would lose points. You have to have the square root symbol around the 149. Neve, what is the other answer on this one? So we'll go how about 2 decimal places? 12.21. We'll go 2 decimal places. So I want this answer and this one. Since it's not multiple choice, I want both answers. Gotta have the square root around it, or you'll lose points. All right, number 4. Julius, read that one. All right, so on your own paper, I want you to go ahead and start this one. Okay, if you're still working, that's fine. You should have parentheses negative 3 minus negative 6. These are my two x's, negative 3 and negative 6 squared plus 1 minus 3 squared. These are my y's. And when you do that in the calculator, you should get square root of 13. Square root of 13, which matches B, So make sure, again, on your paper, you have the square root around the number 13. Also, as a decimal, just go 2 decimal places, and you get 3.61 on this one. 3.61 is the decimal. Okay. Raise your hand if you have a question. Julius, that's a minute after the bell. I just said raise your hand. What?
I did the,
number 5. What is the difference between the point negative 3, 4 and the origin? Andrew, do you remember what the origin is? What point? Do you remember? But what is it as numbers? James, do you remember? Good. 0, 0. Write that on your paper, please. Origin is 0, 0. So I'm going to do it the same way. I'm just going to be putting in 0. So square root, parentheses. Gavin, what goes in for the x's?
negative 3 minus 0.
Very good. And then I do it squared. Destiny, what are my 2 y values? What are the 2 y values? Which one's the y here? 4. And what's the y value over there? So those are my y values. 4 minus 0 squared. Okay. All right, Levi, what are you getting when you type that in? And what do I have to write? I can't just write that. That would be wrong. What do I have to write? Square root. I have to write square root of 25. So guys, is D the answer? No, because D doesn't have the square root symbol. Okay? Yes, Gavin?
Answer is 5.
5. Good. When you type this in your calculator, you get 5. So D is wrong because they don't have the symbol with it. Okay? So you've got to be really careful with that. Any questions on that one? All right. Number 6. A triangle has vertices at 2, 4, 3, -1, and -2, -2. What is the approximate perimeter of the triangle? Circle the word perimeter, please. All right. Perimeter means to add all sides. Write that down, please. Add all sides. Write that on your paper. Circle the word perimeter. Perimeter means to add all the sides. So what kind of shape do we have on this one? A triangle. Do we need to graph it if we're going to have to add all the sides? No, we don't have to graph it though. We can just draw a triangle. We don't have to put it on a graph. Oh, let's see if we can get this problem done without another interruption. So, what you need to put is 2, 4 at one point of the triangle. 2, 4. It doesn't matter which one you put it at, but you probably want to put it at the same one as me until you learn how to do this. 2, 4. 3, -1, and -2, -2. Okay? Now, perimeter means to add the length of each side. To add the length of each side. Do I know how long each one is? No, what formula can you do to find the length? Yep, the D equals the distance formula. So you're going to have to do one for that side. You're going to have to do one for this side and one for this side. Now, I know that's a lot of typing, but what's doing all the work? The calculator. So it's not like you're having to really think. All you're having to do is type. Okay? So on this side right here, let me have Andrew. What would I put in the calculator if I'm using these 2 points? What would I type? Uh-huh. Thank you, Andrew. So that's what I would type in for the left side, okay? Let me have Allison help me with the bottom. What would you type in your calculator for these two, Allison? Uh-huh. Good. Okay, so I should see people writing or typing in their calculator. You should be doing one or the other, writing it down or typing it in your calculator. And Gavin, what about this side? What would I type in the calculator? For this one, for these 2 points, what would you type in the calculator?
3.
No. 3 minus x, y, x, y. Uh-huh. Squared. Gotta be really careful with that, okay? All right. Rebecca, tell me what you get when you type this left one in the calculator. James, tell me what you get when you type the bottom one in. And Zach, tell me what you get when you type this side one in. Everybody else should be picking one of your choice to type in. Everybody should be typing one of them in and writing it down on your paper. Don't say it out loud. 52. Anybody square root of 52? Okay, thank you. All right, remember we got to go back and read the question. What is the question asking us? The perimeter. What's perimeter mean to do? Add all the sides. Add all the sides. What 3 numbers are we adding? What 3 numbers are we adding? Good. 5.10 plus 5.10 plus 7.21. Okay? Give people a minute to do it, guys, before you say the answer. All right? So the closest answer is C. Okay? Any questions on this one? All right. Number 7, what is the perimeter of the following figure? Louis, what should I circle? Stephanie, what does perimeter mean? Good. Add all the sides. Let's see. Neve, how many sides are there to this one? 4. All right. Before I can type anything in my calculator, what do you have to get from the picture? Anybody? The points, okay? So let's start with this one. These are both positive. This is positive 1, comma, positive 4. 1, 4. Okay, so write it down on your paper right here. 1, 4. Okay? This one is positive 5, but it is negative 3. Positive 5, negative 3. This one is negative 3, negative 4. And this last one, anybody, what do you think this one is? Yep, negative 7, 3. Okay. All right, how many times are we going to have to do the distance formula on this one? 4 times. 4 times. All right, let's see who's up. Julius, help me with the bottom. What would you type in your calculator if I was doing these bottom 2 points? Negative 3. Good job, Julius. So you should be writing or typing in your calculator. Everybody should be doing writing or typing in their calculator. Levi, what about this left side? What would you type in your calculator? Uh-huh. Squared. Good, Levi. Okay. Sarah, what about the top one? What would you type in your calculator? Uh-huh. Squared. Positive. Okay. Type them in your calculator. Let's go. Well, then right. And Mary, what about this side? All right. Mary, have you put any of them in the calculator yet? All right. What do you mean by the first one? The bottom one? Up here? This one. Okay, what you got? Are you typing it in right now? All right, tell me what you get when you type it in. Do the calculator too. How do you have to write it? Square root 65. Okay. Caitlin, have you typed in one yet? $8.06. Okay. Raise your hand if you've typed in the left side. All right, what you got, Stephanie? All right. All right. Somebody other than Stephanie, raise your hand. You got the top one. Louis? Thank you. Kevin, that's your minute. You got to raise your hand. All right, and this side, raise your hand. Uh-huh. Uh-huh, good. Okay, what do I have to do before I add all the sides? What do I need to have for every side? Levi? Good, change to a decimal, which we already did for this one, so we know it's going to be 8.06 plus 8.06 plus 8.06 plus 8.06. You could also do 8.06 times what? 4. Okay, either one's fine. All right, anybody may answer. What you got? 32.24. Good. 32.24. So that's your final answer. Final answer. Okay? Nope, you don't have to. Okay, Last one, number 8. A triangle has vertices at 2, 3, 4, -1, and -1, -5. What's the approximate perimeter of the triangle? Levi, what should I do first? Yes, thank you, Levi. Zach, what does perimeter mean? Thank you, Zach. Rebecca, what kind of shape do we have on this one? Very good. So how many sides are we going to have to add, Rebecca? Very good. Stephanie, what are my points?
2, 3.
Uh-huh.
4, -1.
Uh-huh.
-1.
Thank you. And Neve, what would I type in my calculator for the bottom one?
Take parentheses 2 minus square plus 3 minus
Thank you, Neve. Sarah, what would I type in my calculator for this left side? And Andrew, this one.
Should be parentheses -1 times -1.
What? Uh-huh.
Negative. Oh, that's why. 4 minus -1.
So minus -5. There are minuses in here and a plus on the outside. Okay? All right. James, you're going to do the bottom one. Louie, you're going to do the left. And Caitlin, you're going to do this one right here. And everybody else needs to pick one to do. And Julius, yes, sir. Change them to a decimal. All right. So, Julius, what's square root of 73 as a decimal? Gavin, what's square root of 20 as a decimal? What? And Allison, what's square root of 41 as a decimal? What? Okay. And Destiny, what are we doing with all the decimals at the very end? What's perimeter mean? Right here, Destiny. We got to add them all up. And Mary, what are you getting for your final answer? So that one is D, 19. Yes, Stephanie?